So Replicate is this very famous platform where you can use any AI model, image, video generation, text generation, and connect to all these tools with only one access. Today, the challenge is to rebuild Replicate or your own interface to call these models without using any code, thanks to Softr and n8n, and to do that in just a few minutes. Let's get started immediately. I'm going to head over Softr, create a new app. I'll delete all the blocks here and all the pages that I will not be using to start with a clean slate. Then I will add a database. I'll use Software databases, and I create one that I call Replicate. I will need a users tab. I'll delete these things. And for users, I always add an email. Then I use name. And we'll also store magic. This will be a URL we'll be able to use to log in as this user, so it will be very easy to test the app. Then we'll have a table for the generations. So it will be any query that the users will do. We'll have a record here. So we'll have just a record ID as the first column. Then we'll have a file. So we'll be building two models. We'll be adding NanoBanana, the new viral image generation or image editing by Google, and this new model from Recraft, which removes backgrounds. So our user will have the choice between these two models. So there will be an input file. We'll be having prompts, and we will have an output file. And also a link to the user. Perfect. Then I'm heading over to the users tab, and I will sync that to the data source that we have just created. So the table user, I'll map the email, the name. For now, that's all we have. I'll just add in here just a permanent logging link, which is the magic link I was talking about. It's not recommended to add it to your apps, but this one is just for us for testing purpose. So just be adding that to the syncing here. Magic link. Perfect. Now heading over to the interface, I'll just give it a name. Perfect. I'll publish that. And we'll grab our user here for test user. So if we open that, we're logged in. Okay. If I head again to the interface, so our interface will be, we'll start with a form. And it will basically be the forms for Replicate to create a new generation. So as the questions will have new generation. And we forgot to add in the database here, select. For now, we will use select. If we really want to scale this up, we will be adding the models as another table, so it's way more scalable. And so for the options, we'll add NanoBanana and background remover. So we have here. So in our form, we will be asking for things, models. So we will have, as an input, we'll have the input file, or actually just the model first. Then we add a section which will be the and we'll basically show it. We need to get the value from here, the exact value, NanoBanana. So in here, we only show that when the model includes NanoBanana. My database in another tab. The exact name of the other option, background remover. Okay. Perfect, and let's just background remove, and this one we only show it when the answer to the models was background remover. So here we will dynamically show the right input fields because for NanoBanana we can only accept, so we will accept an input file and a prompt from the image. For the background remover, we will only have the input file, and there is no prompt here to add. Then we will add something in here that will be a hidden field just to get the user based on the logged in user email, so we can associate the generations to users. And we will create a new page, generation detail, where we'll have an item detail here that will show the generation. And for now, we will just have as a heading the record ID, which is not ideal. This will be the way we get started. Then if we go back to our form, we should be able to have it open the new generation that was just generated. So whenever we launch the generation, or plus button, beautiful. So when we fill in that form, it sends us to a specific detail page for that generation. And what we'll add here is maybe 2 columns to have on the left our input and on the right the result. So here again, we'll use an item detail based on the generation. This time we show the record ID of that one, the record ID. Make sure it's the same record that's being shown. We'll not have a top section, but we'll simply show here. So we'll have the prompts and our input file. I'll just add here the fact that the prompt, the default value is no prompt needed. Is model. So even if we show the prompt here, in case of a background removal, it will be clear to understand that there was no prompt needed. We'll show that as an image. And we'll show it maybe big square. Perfect. Then we will keep a button to edit our inputs. And here we will allow to edit the input file. But that will be only when it's a record for which the model is background remover. And we'll duplicate that. And here we will allow to edit both the input file and the prompt in case it's NanoBanana. So the edit button will be different depending on our prompt. And I will just take it out, duplicate it. I'll put that back in. Put that here. Maybe we design this a little bit to maybe add a border here. So it's nicely showing our two options. Beautiful. And this time we will not display the input image, but the output file. Results. Not show the prompt. And then what we need here as an action is not an edit or whatever, but it's we want a button here that will actually generate the result. So we could also generate that whenever the form is submitted, but we can maybe just let our users refine it a bit before actually calling the generation. So I'll use the call API node here, and that's where n8n will intervene. So we will call that button generate. Have some stars here. Generates perfect, and we will use here an API URL. So I'm just gonna add here a webhook to start this workflow. I set the method to post and yeah. So I prepare this webhook and I will paste the code like the URL here, and we will also be sending a body value, a record ID, which will be the selected record. So that record's record ID, so that whenever we hit that button, it will send a webhook to this that has a webhook that has a record ID. So let's test our app live. Perfect. So let's do background remover. Generation. It should open the detail page. Beautiful. I can edit that image if I want to. And when I'm ready, I hit generate. For now, it doesn't do anything. It even has an error because here I set it to respond to webhook, but we should have, actually not, because I didn't activate the workflow. Let's do it again. We should have an execution coming through. So we can hit debug in the editor to actually get the data structure. Okay, it really didn't. Let me just put it back to immediately generate, so at least it's not an error and we can see what's inside. And here we see that we got in the body the record ID. Perfect. From there, so I'll set it back to respond to a node. And then what do we need? We need a Softr node to actually get one record. And here we will get in our table generations the record that has the ID that we just got, because we need to get all the information about that record. What is important here is that in the input file we have an URL, which we will actually download by using a HTTP request directly. So I get a request directly on that URL. If we do that, we will download the file of the actual image. From there, and that's where we will actually use replicates API just for the sake of this demo. Here we will create a root switch to just decide whether here whether the model label was like this. So one branch for the background remover and one for the NanoBanana, which was named exactly this way, because we'll do a different API call for each build. So we'll have a different route for each, and I'm gonna head over here to replicate and hit run with API so that I can see the curl to actually do that API call. And back in here, I'll just run that. I'll add an HTTP request and import this curl, which will pre-fill everything to make that API call happen. I'll just remove here the authorization because I have already stored it here. It replicates authentication. And I will just, actually, we don't even need to download that. We'll simply use the URL that we got here from Softr. So here it's replicate API. If we run with the data we had in here, we will get here our results. From there, the only thing we have to do is to add again, I'll just copy that. We'll use another Softr node, but this time it will be update because we will simply update again the same record ID. And for the output file, we'll be adding the URL of the output here from replicate. From there, we and yeah, actually, I don't know, we don't need to make it response with something like this. From there, if I hit generate, we should have our results arriving here whenever replicate was done and sent it back, and we have it here. We can then add in our interface another button, another action button to download a file with a nice download icon like this. It will download the output file. And we can even show it only when there is an output file is not empty, so we only see that when it's ready. Let's quickly build the logic for the NanoBanana. Clean up a bit. Sidebar. Perfect. Let's say we do NanoBanana, and I'll use the same image, or this one. And the prompt will be, instead of a car, I need a truck. So this time, if I hit edit, I can also edit the prompt, and maybe it's a train. When I'm ready, I'll hit generate. This time, if we go back to n8n, we've got that execution, but we see that it went through the NanoBanana branch, which isn't set up for now. So let's do also an HTTP request. We go in here, oops, run with API. I'll grab the curl. I import it. Here again, authorization, here replicates. So for the prompt, this time we will map it to the prompt that we have here. Just set it to expression. I will also copy that and ask ChatGPT, and I will use it in a JSON, and I want to make sure that it doesn't break the JSON, so make sure that there is no quote mark or no line break thing, so it never breaks. My current prompt was clean, but we definitely want to make sure that if we had quote marks in the prompt or line breaks, it wouldn't break the JSON. And so as the image input, so here they show how we could have an array of images. In our case, we'll only have one for now, and we could for sure set it up to support more. We'll use again our input file as the input. Replicate API, and let's consider that actually can even do that if the schema of the output of replicate is exactly the same. It should work the same. So I'll hit now generate, and let's see if we get something. So I think Banana takes 10 seconds to output what we need. And beautiful. There you go. We'll just do one minor interface tweak for the content here. For the input image, we will actually show it as a fit here too, to make sure that it's actually, yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. I download that and I've got my image. Beautiful. From there, we will just add a last thing, which is here a list of all the generations we've done, and maybe with a grid like this, we map that to the generations, and we also make sure to filter. We want the user to include the logged in user email, so nobody sees the generations of someone else. We could also in here add a data restriction to the generations table to make sure that users can only view those where they are the user. So that's an even safer way here to make sure that nobody can see someone else's generation, especially when the content is sensitive. So here we'll just add all your past generations. Perfect. Don't need a search bar. We will just allow for one filter by model, tags like this. Beautiful. No need for an add record because we already got that covered with that form. We can actually, if we want, use containers here to have that form in here that we call new generation, all generations. Looks cool. And here, yeah, maybe we map it to the output file. We don't need to show the user. And yeah, let's say here we show the record ID. We can also in our database here add an automatic created at stamp. So in here we can also display actually the, maybe instead of the record ID, we show the show a date for the timestamp, and we make it relative. Okay, beautiful. And yeah, no. And lastly, we add here for each item a button to open this, the generation detail. So if we publish that, we have built in 20 minutes an app where let's just give it a title, replicates. So we are able to do a new generation here, input our file here, prompt it, or use background remover, and we see here all the generations that we have done. You can just finally add maybe a nicer sorting option based on the timestamp. We're able here to open that to maybe edit our prompt. I need a helicopter When we're ready, we hit generate. We wait a few seconds, and automatically when the database is updated, the benefit of using Softr databases here is that it will automatically update the interface. So we will see that new image coming, and we have our helicopter. Of course, it could be way more advanced. From there, you could build maybe having all the models in a table instead of here in a single select field, so you can manage that in a more scalable way. And yeah, build any interfaces you want based on that. So hope this was useful, and yeah, tell me what should be built next.